My corral project is almost done, but I have one huge piece of the puzzle still left to make, and that is my fence line bunk feeder / gate. So that's what I'm gonna start on here in the shop tonight, and that's what we're doing today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. A lot of this bunk feeder I'm going to be making out of pipe, and that means that I'm going to have to be notching the pipe as well to get everything to fit up nicely. I don't really love notching tube or pipe, either one, but it is going to make all the joints fit up really nice, weld up really nice, and in the end be a lot stronger. So that's what we're going to do. Now I'm using this Harbor Freight tubing notcher, which certainly is not the nicest tubing notcher that you can buy, but for what I do, it's actually worked pretty well. We will cut a couple of notches here and I'll show you guys how it does. There's still plenty of grinder work to be done on this metal, but as you can see with this scrap piece of tubing here, the notch turned out really good. This fits up nice and tight. So these pieces for the notching at least are done for now, so we can move on to the next piece. I've probably spent too much time measuring this all out, getting everything square and straight, but what I found is that spending a little bit of extra time now is probably going to end up saving me a lot of time later. So now that I'm pretty well satisfied that everything here is good, I can come back through and fully weld these joints, but before I do that, I want to tack in some of the cross pieces. It's back to the chop saw, and let's get the rest of these pieces cut out. I moved the notcher outside here to give myself a little bit more room, and I already have this pedestal out here that I use for the tubing roller and the tire changer, and I figured, why not? It'll make a perfect mount for this notcher as well. I'm cutting all these notches at 30 degrees because I know from experience that that's the angle that I want those slats on. That's what everything else is over there, and it's worked fine all these years, so we're not going to change that now. I just have to cut one notch in the bottom, one notch in the top, both going the same way so that pipe can fit in there on an angle in between the top pipe and the middle pipe on the feed bunk, which will make sense in a minute. I have to make sure that all these are exactly the same. The way that I'm doing that is I cut all the tube at, or the pipe I should say, at 40 inches, and then I'm just making sure that the notcher goes into the tube at the same spot on each one. In theory, that should make all of those the same length when I'm done. To keep everything clocked right on that pipe, I'm just making sure that the white text that's written on the pipe is always straight up, and that way I know that my notches are they're gonna line up when we're all said and done. So cutting notches, not the funnest thing in the world, but it sure makes everything fit up nice, so let's get to it. It's the next day and I've got all the stuff that I built back in the shop over here at the ranch. I'm all done with the fence line bunk feeder. It's ready to go up, save a couple boards that need to go on the bottom, but that doesn't need to happen immediately. Last night I welded up a bunch of the little odds and ends pieces that we need to get finished, and the first thing that I'm going to put on is one of those pieces, and that is the latch for this little gate. Now that everything's welded solid, the moment of truth is seeing if this latch actually lines up and I put the holes in the right spot. Got it. She's happy for me. I know that some of you have been missing the animals in the videos, and as I'm working out here, I'm listening to them talk, so we can go take a quick look. Now that that little gate latch is done, we can move on to the big project here, and that is getting this fence line bunk feeder hung up. The first thing I'm going to have to do, which might end up being the hardest part, is drag that thing over here because it weighs a ton. And I brought the hoist. I think I will try to hoist it up on that crossbar there until I can figure out exactly where I want it, and then I'll know where to weld my hinge. Whoa, nowhere to grab this thing. The problem is, this is just light enough that I can carry it, but it's heavy enough that I probably shouldn't. And I don't have that far to go, so I'm just gonna try to go a little bit at a time so that I don't destroy my back. And eventually we'll get it in there. So what's kind of tough about this is I want that high enough off the ground that it's going to remain easy to open and close, but I don't want it so high up off the ground that a bunch of hay and stuff can get pulled out of there or jammed under. So it's kind of a catch-22, I guess. So I think what I will do is just sort of line the top pipe up with that gate so everything looks nice and straight there. And that's where that thing's gonna live. All right, I've got these hinges all clamped on the post there, and so far everything is looking good. The gate is is the right width, which is always something that I worry about when I build it off-site. Did I get my measurements right? Is everything going to fit the way I think it is? And luckily this time that all turned out to be true. Before I weld the hinges on, I think I want to try to operate the gate a little bit and just make sure nothing jumps out at me that's wrong, or something that we need to change before I weld that. The only thing that's really kind of a bummer is that on this old fence, you can see where the old wooden posts are going to kind of block the way that this gate swings. So I really won't be able to get full use out of it until I rebuild the rest of this stuff, which is something that is on the plan to do. For now, the gate's probably not going to get used that much. It hangs pretty straight. which is good. Sometimes this hinge setup lets it sag a little bit, just depending on how much play there is on that top piece. But it looks like I can open it this way. All right. That is going to do it for this project here in the corral. I still have a couple little things that I have to do to finish this up, but it's nothing that I'm probably going to take the time to film, because just, you know, little finishing touches like putting the boards on and just sort of odds and ends like that. The next time you guys see this feeder, my goal is to have 4 steers eating here, because it's about time to cut them out of the herd and start pushing some feed at them. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.